You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up the better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 11th part of What If Naruto Enters K-Pop Demon Hunters. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Slygold on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Rumi lowered the phone slowly, the call cutting off but Naruto's voice lingering in her ears. For a moment she just sat there, thumb tracing the edge of the case, eyes distant. He always made it sound so easy, always. I love you, but she knew the weight behind his words. If I had summoned Team 7, it wasn't for something small. Her chest tightened, a low ache of worry pulling at her ribs. Part of her wanted to storm out, to find the first jet to the cloud and stand beside him blade in hand. But that wasn't what Naruto needed from her. She glanced around the penthouse. Zoe was sprawled across the floor, scribbling rhymes furiously in a notebook, every other line a jab at the Saja boys. Mira was pacing, headphones in, her body already moving through choreography she hadn't even taught them yet. Bobby sat at the counter with his laptop, mumbling about schedules and lighting cues, but his eyes kept flicking toward them, his concern as plain as theirs. Rumi tucked the phone into her pocket and pulled her braid forward over her shoulder. Her knuckles whitened around the end of it as she muttered to herself. He's fine. He has to be fine. And I've got my own fight here. She straightened, forcing her spine tall, her hunter's poise settling over her like armor. The Han moon was still bleeding with weak spots. The Saja boys were still growing stronger. And if they didn't bring the fight to that stage, everything Naruto was risking his life for could crumble. So she swallowed her fear, grabbed her sword from where it leaned against the couch, and turned to the others. All right. No more breaks. Let's make this perfect. We've got a demon boy band to bury. Zoe hooped. Mira smirked. Bobby rolled his eyes but smiled anyway. And Rumi, still aching inside, still replaying Naruto's words, let herself focus on the work. Because she knew, just as surely as she knew her own heartbeat, that he was out there doing the same. They burst into Ice Office with their masks still on, breath fogging in the cold, the red glow of the mountain village leaking through the window panes. The Raikage looked up from a map, and the change in his face swallowed the room whole business, not bravado. He didn't waste a single word on pleasantries. Something made Yujito leave the village, I said flatly, slamming a fist down on the table so the papers jumped. Witnesses saw red cloaks near the south gate. Jiraiya's scouts confirmed it. Akatsuki movement. He lifted his head, eyes hard as flint. High-level demons are hitting the cloud tonight. We need those demons contained. We need Yujito back. I want Team 7U3 to go after the Akatsuki and bring her home. If she's hurt, if she's dead, his voice lowered, each syllable heavy. Make them pay. Sasuke's jaw tightened beneath his mask. Sakura's hand found the hilt at her peach as if by instinct. Naruto's shoulders drew in, a quiet steel settling into him. None of them answered the way novices might know talk, just the kind of motion that spoke of training, a flick of a wrist, the snap of a mask strap. They nodded once, together, the briefest pact. I didn't soften. You'll go fast. The rest of our jonin will hold the perimeter. I'll STRP the SCRT down to skeleton strength but keep the home fires burning. You get Yujito, or you return on a stretcher. Naruto's chest ached at the thought of Rumi, at the memory of her braid against his palm, at the way she'd held his hand in the hospital and whispered the 3 small words that had shifted the world beneath him. He swallowed it down until it tasted like iron and bowed. Understood. Sasuke's response was sharper, clipped. Where were they last seen? I rattled off coordinates, points on the map that flared in Naruto's head like danger lights. Red cloaks. Night routes. A path that meant only one thing: professional predators with resources and patience. The three listened, eyes darting and cataloging escape routes, ambush points, civilians to reroute. Take the private skiff on Dock 4, I ordered. Cloud's patrols will blanket the perimeter for an hour. After that, you're on your own. I don't want you to engage unless you have to. Retrieve Yujito, survivor's first kill if necessary. You know the rules. Sakura's fingers tightened on the hilt she kept year-round. We won't fail. Good, I said. He leaned forward, suddenly almost small with the weight of it. And, he paused, the muscle in his jaw flexing. You three are hunters. You work together. Don't be heroes for the headlines. Be precise. Be fast. Come back to me alive. Sasuke's single, slight inclination of the head was all the answer I needed. Naruto stepped closer, palms flexing as if to squeeze something, but he steadied. We'll bring her back, he said, and it was more vow than statement. They moved with practiced efficiency. Gear strapped on, blades kissed by the low light as they checked edges and balance. Naruto's storm resonance hummed softly under his skin, a current ready to answer his command. The kitsune at his shoulder pulsed, impatient and eager. Sasuke's Sharingan tilted the dark like a blade. Sakura's willow stance poised her like a rooted tree waiting for the wind to strike. Before they left, Sasuke glanced at Naruto, briefly and without theatrics. Control your storm, he said. Don't burn the alley down trying to impress it. The corner of his mouth twitched, there was no heat to it, only the smallest smirk that said more than the words. Naruto met his gaze and let out a breath he hadn't known he was holding. I won't lose anyone, he said quietly, not to prove, but to bind himself. Not this time. Sakura's nod was a promise and a blade-in-the-dark laugh. Then move. The village needs us. The dock was a living thing, ropes creaked like tightening throats, sailors shouted, and the private skiff waited like a shadow cupped against the waves. They boarded without fanfare. Around them, cloud hunters took up positions, their faces hard as the steel they forged. Ice orders moved through the commanders like winter wind: hold civilians, evacuate the exposed, be ready to die but not to be reckless. As the skiff slid into the black water, the village lights waned behind them, and the mountains watched like silent, indifferent gods. The three silhouettes on the bow, Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, were small against the night, but when Naruto drew a breath, the current answered. The kitsune's tail stirred, wind brightened the spray, and somewhere in the hush, a distant bell tolled out a time the world seemed to hold. They rode into the night with one thing burning clearer than the moon above them: Akatsuki had taken Yujito, and whatever plans were unfolding, Team 7 would not be the ones to let the dark win without a fight. The sea answered him as if it knew where his heart wanted to go. Naruto sank his palms into the spray and called. The Leviathan rose beneath the skiff like a mountain of midnight water, ribs of foam and thunder hauling them forward. The world blurred at the edges. Moonlight glancing off scales, wind thrown into sheets, the hull skimming faster than any engine should allow. Sasuke kept watch, eyes cutting the horizon. Sakura whispered prayers under her breath and readied her stance. The island uncurled out of the night like a wound in the ocean rock and a single ruined pier, and the three of them dropped from the skiff and ran for land. Footfalls on wet wood, then sand. The island smelled of rot and old smoke. They moved as one, hunters trained to read the dark, and there hunched under the rib of an overturned boat was Yujito, a dark stain spreading across her clothing. She was breathing in short, ragged pulls, crimson flecks dotted the pale of her collar. BLD had slicked her braid and clung to her palm. Her eyes rolled as men staggered away from her, and when she saw them, a single breath of relief escaped her lips. And then they saw them. Two figures, waiting. The first twirled a massive triple-bladed scythe, the iron chain snaking around his body with a sound like bones rattling. His grin was jagged and cruel, splitting his pale face too wide. Crimson eyes gleamed with the glee of a butcher. Symbols etched into his skin pulsed faintly like glowing wounds. He let the scythe spin lazily, dragging a groove into the sand as he walked forward. "Hunters, ha," he said with a sing-song lilt. "Gods, I love when the prey comes to me. More BLD for the beach. More screams. Can you feel it? I can. Oh, I can." Beside him loomed a monster even taller than Naruto had imagined. Kakuzu's skin was gray and cracked, seams splitting across his body like something stitched together wrong. The seams twitched, writhing with black tendrils that pulsed like veins made of shadow. Faces warped, half-formed, bulged from his back, stitched into his flesh like trapped souls begging for release. His golden eyes gleamed with cold calculation. He flexed one clawed hand and spoke in a voice like a ledger read aloud, "Their resonances, all of them will be mine. Especially you, Stormbringer. You shine too brightly. I will cut the light out." Naruto's jaw tightened. His storm kitsune flickered faintly above his shoulders, tails twitching. Sakura slid closer to Yujito, eyes wide at the BLD, "She's losing too much." "Keep her breathing," Sasuke cut in, eyes locked on the monsters. His voice was iron. "We deal with them." Haydn barked a laugh, spinning his scythe until the chain clattered like drums of war. "Yes. That's the spirit. Bleed for me, little hunters. Bleed for Jashin." He caught himself, lips curling, voice dripping with hunger. "No bleed for me." Kakuzu only stepped forward, every move slow, deliberate, unstoppable. The wind shifted, carrying the stench of death with it. The battlefield had already chosen its sides. Sasuke's blade caught the moonlight as he closed the distance, black flame already coiling down its edge. He slashed high, fast, but Haydn only grinned, spinning his scythe in a whirl of steel and chain. "Yeah, that's it. Come on, pretty boy." The scythe snapped forward like a striking serpent. Sasuke ducked, the blade slicing a strand of his hair, but then the chain screamed taut and yanked the weapon back toward Haydn's waiting hands. Sasuke's eyes widened. The BSTRD had used the recoil to WHP the weapon again. He twisted, narrowly avoiding the second strike. Sparks flew as the chain scraped across stone. Haydn never stopped moving. His scythe blurred in a cruel dance, every swing wide and deliberate, meant to herd Sasuke back. The length of the weapon kept him just outside of counter range, forcing Sasuke to waste precious movements on dodges and sidesteps. "Can't reach me, huh?" Haydn taunted, tongue sliding over his teeth. "Let me fix that." The scythe came low, fast. Sasuke parried with the flat of his blade, but the force jarred his wrist. Another strike from above, he rolled under it, sparks lighting the air. Another sweep, another dodge. Haydn laughed with every near miss, his resonance flaring BLD red with delight. Sasuke's breath hissed out, Sharingan blazing as he calculated. The gap was too wide. He needed another angle. His free hand flared with black fire, summoning the phoenix. The creature shrieked into existence, wings wreathed in Amaterasu, and dived at Haydn from the flank. For a heartbeat, Sasuke saw victory. But Haydn's aura erupted like a geyser of gore. Behind him, a colossal demonic maw ripped open in the air, fangs jagged and dripping tar. The mouth lunged not at Haydn, but at the phoenix. The bird screamed as it was swallowed whole. Darkness slammed shut, and then belch flames vomited back out in a torrent. Sasuke barely twisted aside, black fire exploding across the sand where he had been. His coat smoked, his cheek singed, the scent of burnt leather rising. Haydn licked his lips, spinning the scythe casually as though he hadn't just defied the laws of resonance. Tasty. Got any more?" Sasuke's knuckles whitened on his blade. This wasn't a foe he could toy with. Every move would have to be perfect or fatal. The island smelled of salt and rot, the cliff's jagged teeth gnawed by endless waves. Above, thunderclouds gathered as if summoned by fate itself. Kakuzu's body split apart, 6 grotesque masks floating free. Each one oozed with power, the air bending around them, fire crackled and spat molten arcs, water writhed like serpents, wind screamed sharp enough to shred steel, ice glittered cruelly, lava bubbled like a volcano's heart, and steam hissed thick and choking. They circled him like predators. Naruto slid his crimson blade into its sheath, his hand tightening on Selene's blue steel. His stance shifted low, steady. Lightning began crawling up his limbs, crackling across his shoulders, until his entire frame hummed like a storm about to break. Wind shrieked in tandem, grinding against itself, extending the sword in his grip until it sang with invisible edges. Storm stance. The first barrage was instant. The water mask spewed a geyser, the ice mask snapping it into 1,000 frozen spears midair. Naruto ducked and rolled, but black threads lashed out, trying to snare his limbs. His storm blade screamed. One slash split the whips in two, lightning sizzling along the cuts. The extended edge caught the frozen barrage and shattered it into mist. Kakuzu laughed, deep and mocking, voice rattling the rocks. Good. Yes. Show me your resonance, boy. When I rip it from your bones, I'll double my arsenal. Fire roared. Lava burst. Steam swelled, blanketing the battlefield. Naruto moved like lightning unchained. He cut through a torrent of flame, splitting it wide so it scorched harmlessly past his shoulders. He dashed sideways, the storm hissing around him, as lava erupted where he'd been. Steam boiled over, blinding, suffocating perfect cover for Kakuzu. Threads speared out of the fog, sharpened into black blades. Naruto's instincts screamed. He brought his sword up just in time, the impact shrieking as lightning met shadow. Sparks flew, the extended storm blade carving through the threads. The wind mask joined in, a compressed gale ripping toward his flank. Naruto twisted his wrist, and the storm blade flickered outward, cleaving the wind attack into two harmless halves. But the masks weren't done. Fire and wind merged into a furnace blast, lava and steam turned the sand into molten glass, and water and ice locked together, sending frozen serpents slithering across the shore. Everywhere Naruto moved, death pressed closer. He became the storm. Lightning crawled from his heels, every leap cracking the sound barrier as he rebounded off stone and sand. Pop pop pop. To the untrained eye, he vanished. One heartbeat he was beneath the crashing firestorm, the next he was carving apart an ice serpent mid-lunge. He spun through mist and sparks, cutting a jet of steam down the center. The ground scorched, waves boiled, cliffs shuddered. Kakuzu roared, his laughter echoing above it all. Yes. Faster. Harder. Burn yourself out for me, Stormbringer. When you fall, your power will be mine. Naruto's chest heaved, arcs dancing off his skin, smoke curling from his shoulders. He couldn't use Kurama form here, too destructive, too dangerous with Sasuke, Sakura, and Yujito nearby. No. This was a fight for precision. For control. He dragged the blade across the rocky ground. Sparks split the air with a deafening crack as lightning and wind merged tighter, sharpening the storm blade until it was a screaming, invisible edge that stretched beyond steel. His voice was low, a promise to himself, a curse to his enemy. If you think you're taking this storm from me, then you'd better be ready to drown in it. The thunderclouds above cracked in response. And then Naruto blurred forward faster than thunder, sharper than lightning, the storm itself made flesh. While the shoreline erupted in chaos, Sasuke clashing with Haiden's cursed scythe, Naruto darting through Kakuzu's elemental storm, Sakura dropped to her knees beside Yujito. The cloud Kunoichi's breath came in ragged pulls, her chest slick with blood where a gouge ripped across her ribs. The wound was deep, too deep. If she bled for even a minute longer, she wouldn't make it. Sakura's hands moved before her thoughts caught up. She drew a syringe from her pouch, snapping the cap off with her teeth and plunging the needle into Yujito's side. Fast acting, she muttered, voice tight. You'll feel it, just stay with me. Her resonance flared. It wasn't the broad, crushing roots of Mokuton meant to choke demons. No, this was delicate, thin as fishing line, glowing veins of living wood threading from her palms. They wriggled into the torn flesh, stitching vessels shut, pulling skin together just enough to halt the bleeding. Crude, temporary, but enough to keep her alive. Yujito gasped, her hand twitching against the ground, but her pulse steadied. Sakura's brow furrowed. Not enough. She pressed her hands flat against Yujito's sternum, closing her eyes. Gold light shimmered from her palms, flooding the wound and flowing deeper. Tsunade's voice echoed in her mind, don't just look, feel the body. Your resonance will show you what's hidden from the eyes. The light scanned through flesh and bone, and Sakura's breath caught. One of the broken ribs had punctured deep into the lung. Every breath Yujito drew was a gamble. Sakura didn't hesitate. She pulled another tool from her kit, a slender surgical knife, and her roots steadied her trembling hands. Sorry, she whispered, already making the first careful incision. But this is the only way. The battlefield shook with another explosion, fire lighting up the mist where Naruto fought, but Sakura tuned it all out. Her world narrowed to the faint gurgle in Yujito's chest, the trembling resonance lines guiding her like a map. Her golden aura reached further, sealing tiny vessels as she cut, coaxing the rib free, patching the lung as quickly as her stamina allowed. Sweat dripped down her temple, but she pressed on, whispering through clenched teeth. Hang on, guys. I'm coming as fast as I can. Sparks rained across the jagged rock of the island as steel screamed against steel. Sasuke's blade caught the hooked edge of Haiden's scythe once, twice, 3 times, every impact rattling down his arm. The weapon was longer, heavier, built for carnage. Each swing carved trenches into the earth where Sasuke had stood a second earlier. Haiden grinned wide, teeth blackened and cracked, eyes glowing with manic hunger. What's wrong, little flame? Burn me. Give me that fire I've heard so much about. Sasuke didn't rise to the taunt. He couldn't. Every time his phoenix flame even flickered, Haiden's resonance snarled to life, a grotesque demonic maw opening above him, swallowing the black fire whole before spitting it back like tarred meteors. He'd already been scorched once, cloak still smoking at the hem. So he stayed on the defensive. Footwork tight. Sharingan spinning, reading the twitch of Haiden's shoulders, the flex of his grip. Every dodge came at the last possible heartbeat, his blade only rising to parry when escape was impossible. But the margin was razor thin. Too thin. The scythe whistled past his throat so close he felt the wind shear his skin. He dropped low, pivoted, the chain lashed out like a striking serpent. He barely rolled clear before the weighted blade buried itself in the stone. This won't hold. He'll wear me down. Sasuke's chest rose and fell in measured breaths, but his jaw tightened. He couldn't press forward, not with the reach advantage. He couldn't unleash his strongest fire, not when it would only feed the enemy. For the first time in years, a flicker of the old helplessness clawed at him, the memory of red eyes and cold steel, the massacre, Itachi's hand dripping with blood. His Sharingan sharpened, Tomo burning. Haiden wrenched the scythe free, laughing. You've got nothing without your tricks. He twirled the weapon in a wide arc, lunging again. Let's end it. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. If fire was useless, then he would cut with precision sharper than flame. The Sharingan tracked every swing, every feint, every twitch of chain and steel. And for the first time, instead of retreating, he stepped in. Steel shrieked as he angled his blade, sliding along the scythe's curve instead of resisting it. Sparks cascaded in a storm as he pivoted inside the weapon's reach. For the first time, Haiden's grin faltered. Naruto was still on the back foot. His breath came in sharp pulls, sweat and blood stinging his eyes as he slipped between the whips of Kakuzu's black threads. Every strike forced him to defend, his storm-extended blade flashing like a shard of lightning but never finding the distance he needed. The 6 masks moved like predators in perfect sync, water flooding the ground, ice spiking from below, fire and wind turning the air into a furnace, earth closing him in, steam burning his lungs. He summoned wind kitsunes again, their translucent forms darting forward, snapping at the masks. They clashed and bought him seconds, nothing more. Each fox was shredded by elemental bursts, erased almost as quickly as they were called. Still, they were cover. Still, they gave him space to think. Naruto grimaced. He'd been holding it back for 5 years, ever since unlocking it in that desperate battle to protect Sasuke. It wasn't safe. It wasn't tested. It tore at his body like a weapon that cut both ways. But Kakuzu was pushing him harder than anyone since. Already, shallow cuts stung across his ribs, his thigh ached from a near miss, his forearm burned from a grazing lash of molten rock. If he didn't end this soon, there wouldn't be a chance. He planted his feet, raised his blade, and whispered to himself, "All right, no more holding back." And for the first time since that day, Naruto didn't control the lightning. He let it go. Blue electricity exploded from his body, a storm unshackled. It cloaked him completely, crackling against stone and burning the very air around him. The cavern walls shook with the sheer force, water hissing to steam where droplets touched his aura. The next instant he moved. The world snapped with a deafening sonic boom as Naruto vanished from where he stood. G-forces crushed his lungs as his body ricocheted across the rock, each impact carving a crater. To an untrained eye, he was gone, only streaks of light marked where he had been. And then the ice mask shattered, its form splitting in half before it even realized it had been struck. The water mask fell next, a clean slash tearing through its core. Naruto landed a heartbeat later, knees buckling, muscles screaming. His arms trembled from the sheer violence of the burst, every fiber in his body tearing under the strain. The masks hit the ground and collapsed, their resonance breaking apart in sparks. Kakuzu's stitched face tightened. For the first time, his voice wasn't smug. It was sharp. His gaze narrowed. You've been hiding that. Naruto steadied his blade, sparks crawling across his skin. His chest heaved with the cost of that single strike, but his eyes blazed storm-bright. Kakuzu didn't waste time. The remaining masks flew back, threads weaving tight. In an instant, they merged into his core. His body bulged, twisted, until he stood towering at 2 stories tall, threads spilling from his limbs like black rivers. His aura crushed the air, heavy and suffocating. Naruto's body shook, every nerve already raw. He knew he only had one more chance to unleash that reckless burst. And across from him, Kakuzu, monstrous and swollen with stolen resonance, loomed over him like a demon god. The storm was far from over. Sasuke's Sharingan spun, tracking every twitch of Haiden's body, every flex of those demonic chains tethered to the scythe. The grotesque mouth etched into Haiden's resonance had already proven it could devour an attack and vomit it back with grotesque precision. But Sasuke was done playing defense. He needed to break the CYCL. His black phoenix unfurled again, wings searing with unnatural heat as it rose above him. Haiden sneered, dragging his tongue across his teeth. "Try it again, BRT. My resonance'll chew your bird and spit it right back in your face." And it did. The phoenix was swallowed whole, its screech echoing in the cavern of that impossible mouth. But Sasuke's smirk deepened. He twisted his blade, and power ignited behind him. Twin dragons burst into existence, blazing arcs of fire born from the resonance he had crafted himself, Myra's flame. The audience, the air itself, couldn't comprehend the genius until it was too late. The mouth could only contain one technique. It was still digesting the phoenix when the twin dragons roared past. One spiraled high, the other low, converging on Haiden from opposite flanks. For an instant, the world was all heat and thunder. The dragons coiled around the scythe wielder, exploding in a violent storm of blackened flame. Hayden's laughter was drowned out by his own shriek, his body ripped into charred pieces and scattered across the dirt. Sasuke straightened, breath steady, blade gleaming with residual heat. He couldn't help the smug curl of his lips. Mira, your flame saved me again. Maybe when I tell you, you'll reward me with that lingerie I like so much. But then. A rasp cut through the settling smoke. DMNUBSTRD. That hurt. Sasuke's smirk froze. His Sharingan whirled faster, disbelieving. Impossible. The grotesque mouth-stitch resonance peeled away like old skin. And in its place, something far worse spread over the battlefield, a violet cloak, writhing and alive with faces. Hundreds of souls screamed silently from within the haze, their features stretching and collapsing as they stitched Hayden's scattered flesh back together. Threads of raw spirit sewed muscle to bone, bone to sinew, until his grinning face reformed, whole again. The sight clawed at the mind. This wasn't healing. It wasn't regeneration. It was desecration, the power of stolen souls forcing a body to remain tethered to the world. Hayden rolled his shoulders as if he'd just woken from a nap. The scythe clinked once against the stone as he picked it back up, grin widening into something feral. Not bad, kid. I actually felt that one. Sasuke's knuckles tightened on his blade. His genius had worked perfectly. And yet, watching Hayden's body knit itself together with the shrieks of the damned, a sliver of unease slid into his gut. This was no ordinary fight. This was a dance with something that shouldn't exist. Naruto's chest heaved as he ducked another WHP of black threads, sparks crackling off the storm blade in his hand. He'd already shredded the water and ice masks, their shattered fragments dissolving into ash across the rocks, but Kakuzu wasn't slowing down. If anything, he was getting faster. The stitched demon towered in the half-ruined cavern, masks fused across his body like snarling parasites. Fire burned in one maw, earth rumbled in another, lava oozed from a third, and steam hissed from vents along its shoulders. It was a walking cataclysm, every step rattling the ground, every swing of its limbs carrying an entire element behind it. Naruto darted forward, his cloak sparking, storm stance flowing. He slashed at a cluster of threads, wind howling as the blade's edge extended far beyond steel. The cut landed but earth rose instantly, a wall of stone swallowing the strike before it reached the core. Lava bubbled over the wall, hissing down toward him in a glowing sheet. Naruto rolled aside, tails of the wind kitsune tearing into the molten stream to carve an escape path. The ground boiled under his feet. Steam engulfed him, burning hot enough to strp flesh, and he had to force his resonance to flare outward just to breathe. From the shadows of his own stitches, Kakuzu laughed, a sound like gravel grinding in a furnace. Yes, show me more, boy. Show me the power that's broken so many demons. When I take your resonance, when I rip that storm from your veins, I'll be unstoppable. His voice was split, layered with the echoes of every mask bound to him. Naruto's lip curled. He wiped BLD from the corner of his mouth and gripped his sword tighter. He wants my storm, then he's about to choke on it. The fox stirred inside him, lightning flickering like veins across its form. Naruto shut his eyes for just a heartbeat, then clapped his hands together. Thunder split the sky. The cloak erupted, gold and blue fire spilling outward as the storm devoured him whole. 9 tails of howling wind and lightning unfurled, Kurama's vast form rising from the surge. The titan kitsune towered against Kakuzu's stitched monstrosity, its body a storm cloud made flesh, eyes burning molten gold. The air itself buckled between them. Stone shattered. The ocean beyond the island split into frothing waves. Kakuzu only grinned wider, masks roaring in unison. Yes, give it to me. That resonance will be mine. Naruto bared his teeth. Come and take it. And with that, the monsters clashed, fox against abomination, storm against stitched chaos, their battle shaking the island to its roots. The storm wrapped tighter around Naruto's body, his cloak sparking violently as Kurama's form loomed above him. Blue-white arcs of lightning burned into the cavern walls, the scent of ozone mixing with scorched stone. Every breath he took hissed like he was drawing the tempest straight into his lungs. Kakuzu laughed, his stitched frame swelling grotesquely as the remaining masks fused back into him. 6 maws howled at once, spitting fire, earth, lava, wind, steam, and threads slick with corruption. His voice was layered, a chorus of madness. Yes, yes. Show me that power. I'll rip it from you. Stormbringer. Your resonance will be mine. Naruto didn't flinch. His stance dropped low, storm blade angled forward, lightning screaming along its edge. Come try it, then. The clash began. Fire surged first, a pillar vomiting from one of the masks. Kurama's jaws opened wide and swallowed it whole, the storm kitsune turning flame into ash. Naruto rode the surge forward, blade carving across the mask's maw. Sparks detonated, and when the light cleared, the fire mask was gone, its fragments hissing on the ground. Kakuzu snarled and countered. The earth mask split the cavern floor, jagged pillars shooting upward like teeth. Naruto bounded between them, each leap cracking the air with thunderclaps. Threads lashed for his ankles, but the kitsune's tails shredded them, scattering black strands like dead vines. The steam mask inhaled, its maw glowing. Pressurized mist blasted outward, scalding fog hot enough to peel flesh. Naruto hissed as his skin blistered, the cloak sparking wildly to buffer the worst. His vision swam, and for a heartbeat Kakuzu's hulking silhouette loomed in the haze, threads stabbing from every angle. Naruto grit his teeth, summoned a wind kitsune, and hurled it forward. The construct ripped through the mist, its tails cutting the pressure apart. In the clear air, Naruto blurred forward, body splitting the air like a lightning bolt. His storm blade screamed as it cleaved upward. The steam mask shrieked once and then fell silent, split neatly in two. 2 down. The lava mask bubbled and gurgled, molten rock spilling down like a hellish flood. Naruto darted aside, but the rivers closed around him, searing the stone. Kurama's tails whipped desperately, shielding him as the heat bore closer. Then his cloak flared blue, lightning igniting the molten flow. The storm devoured it, shattering lava into glowing shards that cooled instantly as they crashed to the floor. But it cost him. His legs trembled, muscles tearing under the strain. He coughed, blood spattering inside his mask. Kakuzu only laughed, 100 voices screaming as one. Bleed for me, boy. Every spark you spend is one I'll claim. Naruto wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, grinning feral. Keep dreaming. The last mask, the wind flared open, spewing a cyclone that tore stalactites from the ceiling and hurled them like javelins. Naruto crouched low, cloak flaring, and then he let go. The fox howled. The cavern became a maelstrom. Lightning, water, wind, every element Naruto commanded merged with Kurama's titanic form. The storm swallowed him whole. His veins screamed, blood leaking from his lips as the power burned him alive from the inside. But he pushed. He pushed. The storm fox surged forward, claws of thunder and tails of gale-force wind ripping into Kakuzu's last mask. The cyclone collapsed in on itself with a deafening crack. When the light cleared, the wind spirit was gone. Kakuzu staggered, his towering body shrinking, unraveling as the stitches failed. His laugh faltered, choked, then died with him, his form collapsing into dust, leaving behind only a single Oni mask clattering to the cavern floor. Naruto released Kurama's form, the storm dissipating into silence. He dropped to his knees, every muscle trembling, body smoking as if it had been cooked from the inside out. Still, he forced himself up. 1 step. Then another. 3 in all. I have to help the others. His body gave out. Naruto collapsed face first into the dirt, the last echoes of thunder fading around him. Sasuke's blade flashed black with Amaterasu, every strike meant to end it. His phoenix still circled above, wings leaving burning streaks across the cavern ceiling, but nothing stayed dead. Haydn laughed, wild and feral, as the scythe whirled in his hands. Each time Sasuke's flames consumed him, each time a blade of pure hellfire cleaved through his torso, the cloak of souls roared and stitched him back together. Charred flesh reknit. Broken bone reformed. The demon just stood back up, grinning through blood and ash. "You're fun," Haydn crooned, his voice giddy with madness. "Keep cutting me, little serpent. I'll just keep getting back up." Sasuke's breath came ragged now, sweat mixing with the blood running down his arms and chest. The long reach of the scythe kept him at bay, and even when he slipped inside, the backlash was brutal. A cut across his ribs. A slice to his thigh. Another nick near his shoulder. Every exchange left him with new wounds, while Haydn's grin only widened. The phoenix dove again, fire spearing down in a shower of black flame. Haydn's resonance flared, that monstrous mouth of souls opening in the air beside him. It swallowed the fire whole and spat it back, forcing Sasuke to throw himself sideways into a roll. The heat scorched his cheek, left his Sharingan spinning hard to keep track of the scythe already arcing back at him. Steel clashed. Sparks scattered. Sasuke twisted, tried to counter, but the chain yanked the weapon away just before he could land a killing move. And then Haydn was there again, swinging wildly, laughing as if the battle itself was the sweetest drag. Sasuke's chest heaved. His vision blurred at the edges. Cuts burned raw across his body, each movement drawing blood, and still the bstrd wouldn't die. For the first time in years, Sasuke felt the ghost of that old helplessness, the valley, Itachi, the slaughter. His teeth ground, rage and fear simmering under his skin. There has to be a way. But all Haydn did was grin wider, dragging his tongue across blood-streaked teeth. "You look tired, Uchiha. Don't tell me you're breaking already. We've only just begun." Sasuke tightened his grip on his blade, blood dripping from his fingers. He knew if this dragged much longer, the wounds would stack too deep. And yet he stepped forward again, eyes burning red, refusing to falter. Sakura darted in, her willow stance flowing like a tree swaying in a storm, each jab, each cut precise, her poisoned blade always aimed for tendon, artery, heart. Roots exploded from the ground in perfect sync with her movements, snaring Haydn's ankles, stabbing upward at his exposed ribs. For a heartbeat, it seemed like they had him cornered, Sasuke pressing with black fire, Sakura weaving through his guard like a phantom. But Haydn never slowed. His scythe screeched as it tore through the roots, chains snapping and lashing like a viper. He let Sasuke press him one moment, then spun, the blade's arc wider than Sakura could evade at that close range. She twisted, but not fast enough, steel bit across her side, deep, spraying crimson. "Sakura!" Sasuke shouted, his Sharingan burning as he tried to intercept, but the scythe was already dragging back. Sakura staggered, clutching her wound, teeth grit. Golden resonance flared violently from her palms as she forced her roots to wrap her body like sutures, sewing the gash closed mid-battle. The pain was white-hot, but she didn't falter. Haydn only grinned, his eyes wide and ecstatic. "Another soul for the collection," he crooned, voice dripping with hunger. The monstrous mouth of spirits gaped open above him, drooling spectral energy as it lunged toward her. But Sakura's eyes narrowed. With a roar, a dozen roots erupted from beneath his feet, thicker, sharper, faster than before. They tore through the cavern floor and impaled him from every angle, chest, shoulders, thighs, even his neck. Haydn's body jolted mid-laugh, blood spraying as the scythe slipped from his grip. Sakura leapt back, clutching her still healing side, breathing hard. "Not today," she hissed. The gaping mouth snapped shut, flickering and wavering as Haydn writhed on the roots. For the first time, the cloak of souls didn't immediately rush to mend him. His grin faltered, his head twitching as if he couldn't quite process the sensation of losing. Sasuke's blade came up again, black fire coiling along its edge. He stepped beside Sakura, Sharingan locked onto Haydn's trembling form. This ends now, Sasuke said, voice low, deadly. Haiden broke free again, the cloak of souls reforming around him like writhing chains, laughter bubbling out of his throat even as roots still clung to his limbs. You can't kill me, he roared, scythe spinning, I'll feast on your souls until nothing is left. Sakura's chest heaved, blood already soaking through her uniform, but her eyes locked onto Sasuke's. In that one glance, they both knew. She moved first. The willow stance became iron resolve as she dashed straight into Haiden's strike. The curved blade of the scythe slashed across her torso, tearing deep, but she caught it in her palms, flesh splitting, blood pouring, and refused to let go. Her scream was swallowed by the thunder of her resonance as roots shot up in a storm, binding Haiden from head to toe. He writhed and cursed, but the wood tightened, squeezing him in place. Sakura! Sasuke shouted, horror flashing across his face. But then he felt it. That storm inside him. Not flame. Not shadow. But something sharper. Wilder. His resonance had reached beyond fire. He lifted his blade high, and the air answered. Above, clouds tore open. A roar of thunder split the heavens, and lightning coiled down like a living thing. Sasuke's sword drank it in, the air vibrating with raw, furious power. His eyes never left Haiden. Myra's embrace, he whispered, voice steady as his blade trembled with a dragon's roar. Kirin. The sky lit up. A colossal dragon of living lightning formed overhead, scales crackling, eyes glowing white-hot. It dove with earth-shattering speed, slamming into Haiden not as flesh, but as soulfire. The roots conducted the strike, forcing it straight into the cloak of souls that bound him. Haiden screamed. Not in pain, but in fear. For the first time, the immortality he clung to was torn away. The cloak shattered, exploding outward in a wave of freed spirits. The souls rose, golden and weightless, disappearing into the night sky one by one, their cries of relief echoing faintly. Haiden's body convulsed, his laughter broken into a choking rasp, before he finally dissolved into black smoke. The only thing left behind was his scythe, clattering to the ground with a hollow ring. Silence followed. Sakura collapsed, her hands torn and bleeding from gripping the weapon, but she was still alive. Sasuke dropped to his knees, his blade smoking, his chest rising and falling as he stared at the scythe lying in the dirt. It's over, he muttered, but the weight in his voice said he knew it was only one battle in a war far from finished. Sakura's hands shook, but she pressed them against her wound anyway. Golden resonance pulsed from her palms, the bleeding slowing as roots retracted into her body, knitting muscle and sealing veins. Her breath came ragged, but she managed to stand, clutching her side. Not yet, she hissed, forcing her body to obey. She pulled her calm piece from her vest, voice tight but firm. This is Sakura Haruno, Leaf Hunter Jonin, she said, every word steady despite the pain. We have secured Yujito ni. 2 members of Akatsuki Haiden and Kakuzu neutralized. I repeat, Akatsuki threat contained. We need immediate medical assistance and extraction. 1 hunter critically wounded, 1 unconscious. Requesting helicopter transport, over. Static crackled for a beat. Then a deep voice answered, relief and authority carried in every syllable. I hear, the Raikage's growl came through, rough but steady. The horde has been repelled. Our hunters pushed them back, dozens slain, the rest scattered. You 3 did well. A pause, then his tone softened, just slightly. Hold your position. Transport's already in the air. Just stay alive until it gets there. The line clicked. Sakura exhaled, shoulders sagging as she looked over the battlefield. Sasuke stood silently over Haiden's broken scythe, his chest still heaving from the Kirin. Naruto lay crumpled in the distance, Kurama's cloak gone, his body twitching with aftershocks of the storm. Yujito was barely conscious beside her, bloodied but alive. Sakura tightened her grip on the calm before slipping it back into her vest. Help's on the way, she told them, more for herself than anyone else. Her hand drifted to Naruto's still form. Just hang on. The helicopter blades thundered overhead, chopping the air and stirring the acrid scent of scorched stone, and BLD floodlights bathed the shattered island in stark white, sweeping over broken rock, shredded roots, and the black scythe lying abandoned on the ground. Sakura steadied Yujito, pressing one last bandage tight before the medics jumped down. But before they could reach her, a shadow dropped from the open hatch. I hit the ground like a bolt of thunder, lightning already crackling across his body. His eyes swept the battlefield once, sharp as a hawk's. No words. Just action. In a blur, he was at Yujito's side. "You held on," he said, voice low but proud, before scooping her effortlessly into his arms. His cloak flared bright, golden lightning humming like a living aura. Then his gaze shifted. Naruto lay twisted in the rubble, his cloak long gone, smoke still rising from his skin. Ice jaw clenched. He strode over, lightning snapping louder, and knelt. One massive hand slid under Naruto's shoulders, the other under his knees. "This boy," I muttered, the weight in his voice undeniable. "Strongest storm I've seen since my father's era." The medics tried to rush in with stretchers, but I shook his head. Too slow. He needs a healer now. With a flash of light, the wreckage moved. To the naked eye, it was teleportation, one moment standing among the wreckage, the next gone in a streak of gold across the night. The air cracked with ozone, and both Yujito and Naruto vanished into his lightning cloak's embrace. Sakura stared after them, breathless. "He'll get them to the hospital faster than any chopper ever could." Sasuke bent down, plucked Haiden's scythe from the ground, and slid it across the rubble with a grimace. "We need to write the report. Every detail. Akatsuki won't stop here." She nodded, still pressing her side. Together, they boarded the helicopter with the medics. Neither spoke as the island shrank below them, waves swallowing the broken battlefield. By the time they reached the village, I was already at the hospital, lightning cloak dispersing into faint sparks as he laid Yujito and Naruto both onto reinforced beds. His arms crossed, expression unreadable, as healers scrambled to work. When Sasuke and Sakura arrived, report finished and exhaustion dragging at their steps, I looked at them both. His voice was steady. "You've done more than I asked. And you've bled for my village. The Cloud owes you." The Cloud Hospital was alive with motion gurneys rushing through halls, medics barking clipped orders, the sterile tang of alcohol cutting through the faint trace of smoke still clinging to the hunter's clothes. I strode in first, depositing Naruto and Yujito onto reinforced cots with surprising care for a man wrapped in lightning. "Treat them," he commanded. His voice left no room for hesitation. Cloud's top medics swarmed immediately. Golden resonance flooded the room, needles flashing, diagnostic seals glowing against pale skin. Sakura, still bandaged and swaying from BLD loss, stumbled forward. "She needs Yujito." A senior medic caught her arm, steady but respectful. "You've already done more than any of us could in the field," she said, eyes kind but firm. "Your roots and that seal work, they kept her alive long enough for us to finish the job. Without you, she would have bled out." Sakura blinked, breath catching. For the first time since she'd seen Yujito's wound, the iron band squeezing her chest eased. She'll live." The medic smiled faintly. "She'll live. Thanks to you." Sakura's shoulders slumped in relief, but before she could collapse, Sasuke was at her side. He didn't speak, only guided her to a cot where another medic began cleaning and binding her gashes properly. His dark eyes lingered on hers for a moment, acknowledgement, quiet and heavy. On the far side, Naruto convulsed once as another bolt of static jumped off his skin. The medics working on him steadied his form, whispering about torn muscle fibers, overextended resonance channels, and burns that went bone deep. One muttered, "It's a miracle he's alive at all." I crossed his massive arms, looming behind them like a guardian storm. His voice was low but carried. It's no miracle. It's will. That boy, he doesn't fall until the fight's done. The room hushed for a moment. Even the medics, veterans of endless battles with demons, felt the weight of it. Sakura pressed a hand over her chest, her heartbeat finally slowing as she whispered, "Naruto, you stubborn idiot." The medics worked with steady hands, but their murmurs carried across the room like the toll of a bell. Overstrained to the limit, resonance channels shredded. Muscle tissue torn in half a dozen places. Every nerve is screaming he pushed too far. Sakura, even half-bandaged, caught the words. Her stomach twisted. She'd seen plenty of overexertion before, but nothing like this. This wasn't just fatigue. This was years carved away in a single battle. One of the senior medics straightened, sweat beading his brow from the effort of pouring golden resonance into Naruto's body. "He's still alive because his will refused to break," he said, voice heavy. "But he's taken years off his life with this stunt. His body wasn't built to carry that much storm energy freely." Ice Face was grim. His lightning cloak fizzled out as he planted both hands on Naruto's bedside. For once, the Raikage's booming voice dropped to almost a whisper. "You fool of a boy. You remind me of be reckless, stubborn, refusing to fall even when the world says you should." Another medic adjusted a vial of quickening serum into Naruto's foreline. The liquid shimmered faintly, flooding his body with a healing pulse. 2 days rest, intensive regeneration, and he'll be back on his feet, she said. But the damage runs deep. He'll carry this scar on the inside. Sakura's throat tightened. She thought of his grin, the easy way he teased Rumi over the phone, the sheer fire in his eyes when he fought for the people he loved. "He'll be good to go in 2 days, she repeated softly, more to herself than anyone else. "Because he has to be." Naruto stirred faintly, a low groan escaping him. His storm cloak flickered for a heartbeat before fading completely, leaving only the boy beneath, battered, blackened, but alive. I turned, his gaze sweeping over Sasuke and Sakura. "You've all carried the weight of 100 lives tonight," he said, his voice filling the chamber again. "The Leaf should be proud of you." "I am." The silence that followed was heavy, but it wasn't empty. It was filled with respect from cloud hunters, from medics, from elites who had seen hundreds die and lived to tell it. The sun broke over the cloud mountains, spilling light across the village that had endured the night's horrors. The air was quieter now, no alarms, no distant roars of demons, just the murmurs of hunters regrouping after a battle that had nearly broken them. In the Raikage's office, I stood at the head of the long table, arms crossed. His face was lined with exhaustion, but his voice still carried the weight of iron. Across from him, Sasuke and Sakura sat, their reports spread neatly before them. "Yujito and Naruto remain unconscious," I said. "The medics assure me both will live. That's thanks to your efforts." His gaze shifted between them. "But I want to hear it from your mouths. Give me the full picture." Sasuke's tone was clipped, professional. "We arrived on the island as ordered. Yujito was critically injured and under pursuit by 2 Akatsuki members, Haiden and Kakuzu. High-level demons, both with unique abilities. We engaged." Sakura leaned forward, her voice calm despite the faint bandages wrapping her arm. "I stabilized Yujito with field treatment, but her wounds were severe. If not for the extraction and Raikage-sama's speed bringing her here, she would have died." Ice eyes softened briefly, but he said nothing. Sasuke continued. "Naruto engaged Kakuzu directly. His resonance split into multiple elemental masks, 6 in total. Naruto destroyed them one by one. At extreme cost." His jaw tightened, remembering the blue lightning cloaking his teammate, the sound of thunder that shook the ground. He pushed past his limits, unleashed his Kurama storm form fully. He won. But it nearly killed him. Sakura's hands folded tightly. Kakuzu's body disintegrated. Only an Oni mask remained. I grunted, taking that in. "And Haiden?" Sasuke's voice dipped lower. Regenerative abilities beyond reason. He survived every strike, even Amaterasu. His cloak of souls kept him tethered. It took a combined assault, Sakura binding him with roots while I called lightning through my resonance. A dragon strike. That destroyed the cloak, released the souls, and ended him. His scythe was all that remained. Sakura exhaled slowly. It was not a clean fight. We barely had the strength to finish it. The room fell silent for a moment. Then I slammed his fist into the table, making it rattle. And yet you did finish it. Don't downplay what was done here. You saved Yujito. You killed two of the most dangerous Akatsuki demons I've ever heard of. And you did it without losing a single one of your own. He leaned back, folding his arms. The cloud owes you more than thanks. The leaf should be proud to have hunters like you. Sasuke gave the slightest nod, though his eyes flicked briefly toward the window, where the hospital stood in the distance. We did what we had to. Nothing more. I caught the glance but didn't comment. He only said, rest while you can. When Naruto and Yujito wake, I'll speak to them both directly. Until then, you have my village's protection. Sakura bowed her head in respect, Sasuke following with a silent nod. But as they left the office together, Sakura murmured softly, I just hope when he wakes up he doesn't think he failed us. Sasuke's eyes narrowed, his voice low but firm. He didn't. He saved us all. The Cloud Hospital was quiet, the night pressing heavy against its walls. Sasuke stepped out onto the balcony, the cold air brushing his skin. His body still ached from cuts hidden under the bandages, but it wasn't the wounds gnawing at him. It was the weight of everything, the BLD, the close calls, Naruto collapsing, Sakura nearly cut down. He pulled his phone from his cloak, thumb hovering before finally pressing call. It only rang once. Myra's voice came sharp, almost frantic. Sasuke. He exhaled. Through his nose, letting her hear the steadiness in him. It's me. Gods, I've been losing my mind here. She didn't try to hide the shake in her tone. Zoe and Rumi are acting calm, but I know they're worried too. Are you okay? I'm alive. He leaned against the railing, watching the faint glow of the city beyond. Cuts, burns, nothing I can't handle. And Sakura? Naruto? Both alive, he said, clipped but sure. Sakura saved the Cloud Kunoichi. Took some heavy damage herself, but she's stable. Naruto pushed himself farther than I've ever seen. He's out cold, but the medics say he'll pull through. Mira let out a shaky breath. Thank the gods. Her relief bled through the line, thick enough that Sasuke closed his eyes, allowing himself to feel it too. For a moment neither spoke. Just the quiet of two people clinging across the distance. Then, Sasuke broke it dry, deliberate, like it cost him nothing. By the way. That new attack I used to finish him off. I named it after you. Myra's embrace. There was silence. Then Myra's voice, a little breathless. You named a lightning dragon after me? It saved my life, Sasuke said simply. Figured it deserved the right name. And figured you should know. Her laugh slipped out, disbelieving and warm. You're impossible. Are you trying to flatter me or? Both. He didn't let her finish, his tone low, smooth, edged with something more than teasing. Maybe when I get back, I'll find out if it earns me anything. A reward. Her breath caught. For a heartbeat, the only sound was the faint hiss of static between them. Then she answered, her voice dropping, velvet with promise. We'll see. I do have more lingerie and I need to test if it passes the Sasuke standard. Sasuke smirked, the tension in his chest loosening for the first time since the battle. Then I'll make sure I come back in one piece. Mira laughed softly, the sound grounding him more than any bandage or stitch. Good. Don't you dare make me regret saying that. he murmured, the ghost of a smile tugging at his mouth. I won't. When the call ended, Sasuke stood there a long while, the cold wind tugging at his cloak. He felt lighter, steadier, ready to face whatever came next. The Cloud Hospital smelled of antiseptic and steel, its halls buzzing with subdued voices and the shuffle of boots. Naruto limped forward on crutches, his face pale but his grin determined. His muscles still screamed with every step torn from pushing too far, too hard, but he wouldn't let the pain stop him. Yujito walked beside him, her own bandages hidden beneath her uniform. She carried herself steady, though every movement betrayed just how close she'd come to death. Naruto stopped, balancing awkwardly on one leg, and extended his hand. Guess we both made it. Yujito looked at his hand, then at him. For a second, her lips curved into something faint, almost sly. She shook his hand firmly, then leaned in, pressing a quick kiss to his cheek. Naruto froze, eyes bugging, mouth dropping open in pure shock. His face burned crimson. Click. Sasuke stood a few steps away, phone raised, smirk firmly in place. The screen already displayed the perfect capture, Naruto wide-eyed and horrified, Yujito giggling softly in the frame. Blackmail, Sasuke said simply, pocketing the phone before Naruto could even sputter. Well, why would you? Naruto stammered, nearly falling over his crutches in protest. Yujito chuckled behind her hand, clearly enjoying his torment. You're easy to fluster. Before Naruto could reply, the ground itself seemed to shake with the weight of ice steps. The Raikage strode forward, massive and unrestrained, his grin nearly splitting his face. He extended a hand the size of a dinner plate, his voice booming. You did well, all of you. The Cloud owes you more than words. Triple the original pay for your service and the bounty besides. 100 million won each. The room buzzed at that number. Even for seasoned hunters, it was staggering. Naruto blinked, then let out a low whistle. That's a lot. Not Huntrex's money, but, he grinned sheepishly, scratching the back of his head. Maybe I can finally get my own apartment. When the time came to leave, the three stood at the edge of the Cloud Village. Children waved, some shouting their names, others just staring in awe. Naruto lifted a hand, crutch wobbling, and called out his thanks. Yujito lingered in the crowd, her eyes soft as she watched him go. They boarded the transport back to the Leaf. By the time they stepped through Konoha's gates, the sun was setting, painting the rooftops gold. Tsunade was waiting. Arms folded, expression unreadable, the Hokage listened to their report in silence. Then her gaze fell on Naruto bandaged, leaning heavy on his crutches. You got yourself torn up again, didn't you? She said flatly. Naruto lowered his head, guilt painting his face. Yes, Hokage-sama. Her sigh was long and weary, the kind of sound that carried both irritation and reluctant pride. You remind me of Jiraiya sometimes. Always charging ahead, never thinking about what it does to the people who care about you. Naruto shifted awkwardly, about to bow, but even the attempt had him wobbling, nearly falling. His crutches slipped, and Tsunade's hand shot out, steadying him with surprising gentleness. She studied him for a long moment, then shook her head. A week's leave. All three of you. Don't argue. That's an order. Yes, ma'am, Naruto said quickly. Sakura exhaled with relief, but her mind was already elsewhere. I'll find Lee, she said softly, excusing herself into the deeper streets of the Leaf. That left the boys standing together, the quiet between them almost companionable. Naruto glanced at Sasuke. Sasuke glanced back. Their lips curled into the same thought. At the same time, they both said it, soul. Their grins matched sharp, knowing, unstoppable as they called for a helicopter. The cavern where the Akatsuki gathered was cold and hollow, the walls pulsing faintly with veins of crimson light as if the stone itself bled. Their circle was broken tonight. Two places stood empty. Haiden and Kakuzu, the so-called immortals, had been reduced to ash and smoke on the Namikaze's blade. For a long moment, no one spoke. The silence itself was a condemnation. At last, Conan's voice cut through, clipped and sharp. 2 of our strongest are gone. Not by accident, not by betrayal, but because we underestimated the boy from the leaf. The one they call Stormbringer. Kisame chuckled, but the sound was more growl than laugh. Heh. The kid's not just a BRT anymore. He's dangerous. And danger, his teeth flashed in the dim light, earns respect. Daidara's sneer twisted beneath his fringe of hair. TCH, respect. His tricks are nothing but noise and light. Flashy explosions without art. But even his tone carried an edge of unease, betraying what his pride refused to admit. Sasori's voice was colder still. You saw the reports. His precision is what matters. He doesn't waste movements. That kind of control comes only from BLD and loss. He's not to be dismissed. From the shadows, Orochimaru let his tongue flicker against his lips. Storm resonance, such a rare inheritance. If I could peel back its layers, cut into its root, imagine what we could learn. His words dripped with hunger. The bickering ended when Pain finally spoke. His voice rolled like thunder, absolute and final. Haiden and Kakuzu are gone. Their deaths are not failure, they are revelation. The Namikaze cannot be ignored. His storm will only grow. He let the word settle, heavy as stone. 2 weeks, Pain said at last, his eyes narrowing. When the cloud's guard weakens after their purge, we strike again. Itachi, you will retrieve the 2 tails. Yujito must not escape us. Itachi's face betrayed nothing. Understood. Pain's gaze shifted across the circle, settling on the artists. Rashi of the 4 tails and Han of the 5 tails will fall next. Sasori. Deidara. They are yours. Bring them in. Deidara smirked, arrogance returning. Heh. Finally, some true art. Sasori merely inclined his head. The meeting dissolved into silence once more, but its weight lingered. 2 were dead, and yet their path was unchanged. Piece by piece, vessel by vessel, the Akatsuki would continue. And if the Namikaze thought victory had bought him time, he was wrong. The storm only made the hunt sweeter. The doors of HUNTR/X tower hissed open, and the lobby lights caught on 2 familiar figures. Naruto limped in on his crutches, trying to look steadier than he felt, while Sasuke followed with his usual sharp-eyed silence. Naruto. Bobby's voice cracked as he bolted across the marble floor, nearly skidding into him. His hands immediately fluttered over Naruto's shoulders and arms, fussing like he expected him to fall apart at any second. You're walking on that leg already? Are you crazy? You're not supposed to be moving. What if you tear it again? Do you need water? Food? Sit down before you collapse. Naruto blinked, startled by the barrage, then gave a sheepish grin. I'm fine, Bobby. Really? Still breathing, see? Bobby narrowed his eyes like a suspicious parent but didn't back off, hovering protectively at his side. Sasuke finally sighed, exasperated. You do realize I was there too. I got hurt. Bobby spared him the quickest glance, expression flat as a blade. Aha. That's nice. And then right back to Naruto, you're pale. Did the doctors really clear you? Because if Rumi sees you like this, she's going to kill me for letting you walk in. Naruto chuckled, leaning on his crutches with that foxish grin. Guess you've been promoted to mother hen. Promoted? Bobby huffed, tugging at his sleeve as if to drag him toward the elevators. More like cursed. Sit down before you fall down. Sasuke's jaw tightened, his voice dry as sand. Unbelievable. But when Naruto laughed and let Bobby fuss over him, Sasuke's lips twitched just slightly, almost a smile as he trailed after them. Bobby finally let go of Naruto after one last once-over, as if making sure every limb was still attached. "Alright," he muttered, clearly unconvinced but resigned. "If you keel over, don't say I didn't warn you." With that, he guided both him and Sasuke into the elevator and up to the penthouse. The doors slid open to the soft hush of the high-rise suite, sleek couches, floor-to-ceiling glass, and the faint hum of Seoul's neon skyline below. "Where are the girls?" Sasuke asked, his voice as clipped as ever, though he was already toeing off his boots like he planned on staying a while. Bobby rubbed the back of his neck. "Studio." Naruto perked up. "The one downstairs?" Bobby shook his head. "Nope. Out in the city. They wanted fresh soundboards, and Zoe swore the acoustics at their usual spot are better. They'll be there all night." Naruto groaned, sinking onto the couch and stretching his leg carefully. "Of course they would. Can't ever sit still." Sasuke glanced at him, then back to Bobby. "Do you need us to check in on them?" Bobby waved the idea away, already heading for the door. "Nah. I've got it covered. Just don't do anything stupid while I'm gone, alright?" He gave Naruto a long, knowing look before slipping out. The penthouse door clicked shut. The silence that followed was heavy, but comfortable. Naruto leaned back into the cushions, exhaling through his nose. Sasuke took the other end of the couch, his body settling with the slow ease of someone who'd been running on fumes for too long. Within minutes, exhaustion claimed them both. Naruto's head lolled to the side, his breathing steady. Sasuke's arms crossed over his chest, chin tipping down. The neon glow from the city painted them in faint blue light as they slept, two warriors finally allowing themselves a moment's peace. The penthouse door swung open quietly, and the girls slipped inside. The city's neon painted them in pinks and blues as they padded across the polished floors, laughter hushed from their late-night studio session. What they found made all three pause. On the couch, sprawled like soldiers who had finally let their armor fall away, Naruto and Sasuke slept deeply. Sasuke's arms were still crossed, his head tilted back just slightly, lips pressed in a stubborn line even in dreams. Naruto, on the other hand, had half slid down into the cushions, his hair a wild mess, mouth parted as the faintest snore escaped him. Mira smirked, but her eyes softened. "Look at them. Out cold." Zoe snorted. "They look like puppies after a storm. Exhausted but still too stubborn to crawl to bed." Rumi didn't say anything. She just crossed the room quietly, her braid brushing against her shoulder. With gentle care, she slipped her arms beneath Naruto, coaxing him to rise. He stirred faintly but didn't wake, leaning into her warmth without a fight. She guided him to his room, every movement tender, protective. Mira followed suit, though with a little more teasing in her grin. She slipped her hands under Sasuke's arm and tugged. "Come on, tough guy. Bed's this way." He grumbled in his sleep but allowed himself to be led, and Mira's smirk softened into something fonder, something she didn't let anyone see. Zoe stayed behind in the living room, chuckling to herself as she began tidying the snack wrappers the boys had left out earlier. "Hunters and heartthrobs," she muttered, shaking her head. "Somehow, we're babysitting both." By the time the city outside dimmed toward dawn, both boys were tucked away, each carried to bed by the girl who refused to let him fall alone. Zoe stayed behind in the living room while Mira and Rumi disappeared down the hall with their sleeping burdens. She flopped into one of the armchairs, phone already in her hand. Her thumbs flew across the screen. "Still awake?" she sent. The reply came quick. "San doesn't sleep." Zoe giggled, muffling it into her sleeve so she wouldn't wake anyone. "Oh my gods," she whispered to herself, typing back something teasing about his endless metaphors. A second later her phone buzzed again. "You're noisy even in text. Don't keep me up, popcorn girl." That did it. She burst into uncontrollable laughter, shoulders shaking so hard she nearly fell out of the chair. "Popcorn girl, she wheezed, wiping her eyes. By the time Mira came back, Zoe was still giggling non-stop, scrolling back up to reread the exchange. Mira raised an eyebrow. Gaara again? Zoe hugged the phone to her chest, grinning. Don't judge me. He's hilarious. Aha, Mira muttered, rolling her eyes but hiding a smile. The penthouse went quiet again, the city humming outside the glass walls. And in that stillness, Zoe kept giggling softly into the glow of her phone. Steam curled from the bathroom, the sound of running water drowning out the quiet patter of paws across the penthouse floor. Derpy, Jinu's tiger, padded silently across the rug, stripes flickering faintly with otherworldly light. His massive head turned toward the bed where Naruto's jacket lay draped, Rumi's clothes spilling across the pillow from where she'd tossed it earlier. The tiger's jaws parted just enough for a slip of folded paper to fall onto the nightstand. Ink shimmered along its surface, faint purple flame licking the edges but never burning through. A note. From Jinu. But the bathroom door was closed, Rumi humming softly as she washed the day away. She never noticed the ripple of shadow as Derpy's form faded, the air still faintly carrying the scent of ozone and musk. Moments later the water shut off. Rumi emerged, damp hair clinging to her back, bare feet padding against the cool floor. She didn't see the note waiting for her. Didn't see what had been left behind. Instead, she crawled onto the bed and tucked herself against Naruto's side. His breathing was steady, deep with the weight of exhaustion. Rumi rested her cheek against his chest, eyes slipping shut. The paper on the nightstand pulsed faintly, unread. And in the quiet, Rumi's last whispered thought before sleep claimed her was not of demons, not of battles, but of the warmth beneath her arm. Mira stretched out on the couch, a mug of tea in hand, eyes flicking toward the darkened hallway. She smirked. Looks like Rumi didn't come back out after her shower. Zoe sprawled upside down across the armrest, her phone glowing in her hands. She giggled, rolling her eyes dramatically. Please. She probably crawled straight into bed with Naruto. Girl can't keep her hands off him. Mira laughed softly, shaking her head. Honestly? They're too good for each other. The crazy part is, for all that closeness, they haven't even made a real move yet. No crossing lines. No, you know. Zoe's eyes widened theatrically, and she sat up just enough to gasp. Wait. You're telling me all those nights together and zero action? Not even once. Not once. Mira sipped her tea, the smirk never leaving her lips. They're in deep, and they don't even realize how much restraint that takes. Zoe clutched her cushion to her chest, groaning. Ugh, they're disgustingly wholesome. It's almost worse than if they were sneaking around. Mira chuckled, her eyes softening. No. It's better. They're not in it for anything shallow. When they finally get there, it'll mean everything. Zoe flopped back dramatically, muttering into the pillow. Still. Can't believe my boy Naruto's out here sleeping with the literal prettiest girl alive every night and doing nothing. Mira just smirked, sipping again. Patience is a kind of strength too, Zoe. And in the silence that followed, both girls found themselves smiling because they knew, for all the teasing, Rumi and Naruto were the real thing. Rumi jolted awake at the sound of a crash. Her heart jumped into her throat until she spotted Naruto on the floor, tangled with his crutches, muttering curses under his breath. She was at his side in an instant, slipping an arm around his waist and hauling him upright. Idiot, she scolded softly, relief cutting through the worry. You could have cracked your skull. I was fine, he grumbled, leaning against her shoulder as they shuffled toward the bathroom. Just needed to, handle something. Rumi stayed with him, steadying each step until they stopped at the toilet. Naruto hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. You don't have to, he began. I'm not leaving you alone after that fall, she cut in firmly, her grip refusing to budge. What if you tip over again? Naruto groaned. This is the worst. How am I supposed to? He gestured helplessly, cheeks coloring, with you standing right there. She arched a brow. You'll manage. Not when you're ogling me. Her face went scarlet. I what? I'm not. You totally are. His voice cracked with mock outrage. Rumi whipped her head to the side, braid flying, but her eyes flicked back once before she caught herself. Naruto groaned dramatically. See? Impossible, he complained. Hard enough to go, harder when you're checking me out. She smacked his arm, mortified. Shut up and finish already. He chuckled, but did as he was told. When he finally washed his hands, still leaning on her for balance, his smirk came back, smug despite his bandages. See? Survived, he said, bending just enough to kiss her forehead. And it's okay. I know I'm good to look at. Rumi's blush deepened all the way to her ears. She smacked him again, but her grip never loosened as she helped him back to bed. When he settled down against the pillows, still grinning, she sighed and slipped beside him, curling into the crook of his arm. He shifted instinctively, his arm wrapping around her, warmth pulling her in. Thanks, Rumi, he murmured, quieter now, the joking edge fading into something real. Just don't scare me like that again, she whispered, pressing her forehead against his chest. His heartbeat thudded steady beneath her cheek. I'll try, he said, voice rough but sincere. For you. And though the night had started in embarrassment, it ended in comfort. Rumi tucked safe against him, Naruto's hand resting on her braid, both of them finally drifting back into sleep. Morning light filtered through the curtains, warm and golden against the penthouse walls. Naruto blinked awake, groggy but already feeling the ache in his muscles. He tried to shift upright, only for Rumi to press a hand to his chest. Don't even think about it, she said firmly, sliding off the bed. You still need your crutches. Naruto groaned but let her haul him up. His legs trembled, but not as badly as last night. His body was healing, just slow. Rumi slid the crutches into his hands, steadying him until he found his balance. Better? She asked, worry threading her voice despite the cool expression on her face. Naruto leaned on the crutches, managing a crooked grin. Yeah. Still hurts like hell, but his eyes flicked to her braid, then back up with a teasing glint. You're the hottest nurse I know, so maybe it's worth it. Rumi froze, her cheeks instantly flushing scarlet. She smacked his arm with the flat of her palm, not hard enough to hurt. Idiot. Naruto chuckled, wincing as the sound tugged at his sore ribs. Ow, careful. My nurse is supposed to heal me, not finish me off. She rolled her eyes, but her lips tugged upward despite herself. You're impossible. Impossible, he echoed, shifting his weight onto one crutch so he could poke her side with the other hand, but still you're patient. Rumi sighed, catching his arm before he tipped over. Yeah, she muttered, softer now. My idiot patient. And though she tried to look annoyed, the way her hand lingered on his sleeve gave her away completely. Rumi steadied him as he limped back toward the bed, her arm hooked under his to keep him from wobbling. She glanced up at him, her braid falling over one shoulder, lips twitching like she was holding back a smile. You know, she said casually, if you like the nurse thing so much maybe I should get an actual nurse outfit. Naruto froze mid-step, nearly losing his grip on the crutch. His mind betrayed him instantly, painting a vivid picture of Rumi in white, with that sharp braid, that smirk. His nose twitched once, then twice. A hot trickle spilled over his lip. Whatif, Naruto fumbled, wiping his upper lip with the back of his sleeve. Seriously? Rumi blinked, wide-eyed, then broke into laughter that she tried and failed to stifle. Oh my gods, did you just? Naruto groaned, face burning almost as red as the smear on his sleeve. Don't say it. I didn't, he waved his free hand, crutches rattling. It's not my fault you put that image in my head. She doubled over, laughing harder, and finally guided him back onto the bed before he fell over. "You're ridiculous," she said between chuckles, brushing a hand against his temple. Naruto grumbled, still flustered. "Yeah, well, don't test me like that if you don't want the truth coming out." Rumi smirked, leaning close enough that her breath warmed his cheek. "Good to know I can still make the great Stormbringer lose his balance without even touching him." Naruto hobbled into the kitchen with Rumi's help, still a little flushed from her earlier nurse outfit joke. His crutches tapped against the tile, and he tried not to wince at the soreness in his legs. The kitchen was alive with voices. Sasuke sat at the table, calm as ever, sipping tea while Mira and Zoe leaned in close, hanging on his every word. And then the mask fused into something massive, Sasuke was saying, his tone clipped, professional, but with enough weight to keep their attention. Naruto pushed himself past his limit again. Naruto groaned, cutting him off. "Oh, come on, don't make it sound like I just did something stupid. I won, didn't I?" Sasuke didn't even blink. "You collapsed after 3 steps." Zoe gasped, slamming her hands on the table. "Wait, you mean you really fought 7 masks at once? And lived?" Naruto scratched the back of his head sheepishly. "I wasn't alone. We all fought." Rumi eased him into a chair. Myra's sharp eyes caught the faint pink on her cheeks and the way she hovered just a little too close. Her lips curled into a knowing smirk. "You two look awfully cozy," Mira teased. Naruto blinked. "What? No, we're just..." Zoe leaned forward, eyes sparkling with mischief. "Helping him walk? Or helping him walk?" She waggled her eyebrows. Naruto's face turned crimson. Nothing happened. Rumi smacked Zoe with a dish towel, but her blush betrayed her. "Seriously, you're insufferable." Zoe cackled, throwing up her hands in mock surrender. "Hey, I'm just saying if I had someone like him, I wouldn't keep my hands off either." Naruto sputtered. "Zoe." Rumi buried her face in her hands, mumbling something that sounded dangerously close to agreement. Sasuke finally set his cup down, a smirk tugging at his lips. "Enough. You'll make him short-circuit before breakfast is over." The girls laughed, the teasing dying down into easier chatter. For a moment, the room felt full safe even after everything they'd just survived. And though his face still burned, Naruto found himself smiling, too. Because surrounded by them, by family, even the scars and exhaustion felt lighter. The penthouse grew quieter after the girls left, their laughter trailing into the elevator as they headed for rehearsal. They'd asked if Naruto and Sasuke wanted to come, but Naruto had only shaken his head with a soft smile. "You guys go on," he'd said. "Sasuke can look after me." So the two of them ordered a cab instead, silenced their shared companion as the city rolled past. Neither needed to speak, Sasuke knew where they were going the moment Naruto asked for the graveyard. The air was hushed when they arrived, the kind of silence that felt sacred. Naruto leaned heavily on his crutches, jaw tight as each uneven stone in the path threatened to trip him. Sasuke stayed close, steadying him with a firm hand without a word. They stopped before a small cluster of graves: his mother, his father, and his sister. Naruto lowered himself down slowly, Sasuke bracing his arm to help him kneel. The crutches clattered to the grass. Naruto pulled a cloth from his pocket and began to clean the stones. He worked carefully, almost reverently, wiping away dirt and rain stains until the names shone clear in the muted light. When his hands stilled, he spoke, his voice low but steady. "Hey Mom, Dad, Sis. It's me." The words caught in his throat, but he pushed forward. I've been doing better. Stronger. I'm a Jonin now. I've been fighting harder than ever. Doing what you'd want me to, protecting people. Carrying the will of fire." His palm lingered on his mother's name. "I wish you could meet my team. Sakura's amazing. She's strong, smart, and braver than anyone gives her credit for. You'd love her, Mom." You'd probably fuss over her like you used to fuss over me. He drew a shaky breath. And Sasuke's still here with me. Stubborn as hell, but he's still my brother. You'd both be proud of him. I know I am. A faint smile tugged at his lips as his gaze softened. And I met someone. Her name's Rumi. She's fiery, stubborn, appealing. She makes me laugh, makes me feel like I don't have to carry everything alone anymore. I think you'd all like her. She keeps me grounded. She feels like home. The silence settled heavy, broken only by the faint rustle of leaves overhead. Naruto's voice dipped lower. And Jiraiya, he's still teaching me, still watching out for me. You picked the right godfather, Dad. His head bowed, eyes closing, as he whispered, I'll keep trying. For you. For them. For her. I promise. Sasuke didn't say anything he didn't need to. He just stood there, quiet and steady, the same way he always had. A shadow, a brother, a presence Naruto didn't have to ask for but always trusted would be there. Naruto straightened with a wince, pushing himself back up with Sasuke's steady hand at his elbow. He bent, brushing his fingers once more across the names on the stones, then turned and hugged Sasuke tightly. Thanks, he said simply, voice thick with gratitude. Sasuke didn't reply, just gave a quiet nod as if to say he understood. They left the graveyard side by side, crutches clicking against the path, the solemn air following them only until the city swallowed them again. For a while, they just wandered. The streets buzzed with life, street vendors shouting, neon lights flickering to life as dusk crept closer. Naruto leaned on his crutches, but his smile was lighter than before. Sasuke stayed beside him, silent but content to let Naruto guide their aimless walk. Then they turned a corner, and Naruto stopped. Ahead, nestled between taller buildings, was an old orphanage. The gates stood open, the faint sound of children's laughter spilling out into the street. Naruto's face softened instantly. His eyes, tired from grief and fighting, brightened with something gentler. Come on, he said, his smile tugging wider. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. You sure you've got the energy for this? Naruto just grinned. Always. And with that, he walked inside, crutches tapping against the stone path. The orphanage smelled faintly of chalk and old wood, the laughter of children carrying through the open courtyard. Naruto paused at the gate, resting on his crutches. He'd never been in a place like this before, but the loneliness in some of the kids' eyes felt familiar. Sasuke stood beside him, unreadable, though his silence spoke the same language. The moment the children spotted them, whispers started. One boy pointed, tugging his sister's sleeve. That's him, Rumi's boyfriend. Naruto's ears went red, but he grinned and crouched as much as his injuries allowed. Hey! Mind if we hang out? The quiet cracked like glass. Suddenly he was surrounded, small hands tugging his sleeves, voices tumbling over each other. Is it true you're dating Rumi? Do you see her every day? Did she really kiss your cheek on TV? Naruto laughed, scratching the back of his head. Yeah, it's true. The courtyard erupted with squeals and laughter. A little girl leaned against his knee with wide eyes. You're so lucky, she whispered. Before Naruto could answer, Sasuke was dragged off by two tiny girls who had decided his hair was their new project. Sit, they ordered, and to Naruto's surprise, he did. They clambered up behind him with combs and ribbons, braiding his dark hair with all the seriousness in the world. You're gonna look so handsome when we're done, one said. Sasuke muttered, I'm already handsome, but he didn't stop them. Naruto's laugh rang out clear and bright, teasing, guess you finally found your fan club, huh? Sasuke shot him a glare, but the corner of his mouth betrayed the faintest smirk. They spent the rest of the afternoon answering innocent questions about Hunter X, about the concerts, about what it was like to live in the same building as Rumi, Mira, and Zoe. Naruto kept his answers light, never once drifting toward the truth of demons and hunts. To the children, he wasn't a warrior, he was the boy who made their idol smile. By the time the sun dipped low, ribbons hung loosely from Sasuke's hair, and Naruto had a half-dozen children leaning against him, grinning like he belonged there. For a little while, the pain and shadows of their lives were far away, replaced by warmth, laughter, and the kind of hope only children could give. Inside the orphanage courtyard, the noise was nothing but laughter, shrieks of kids chasing each other, Naruto ducking low so 3 little boys could dogpile onto his back, Sasuke sitting on a bench while 2 tiny girls tugged ribbons into his dark hair. Neither of them noticed the curious eyes beyond the fence. To Naruto, it was enough to see the children's faces light up, even if his muscles still ached from crutches. To Sasuke, it was enough to let the girls braid his hair, their small hands clumsy but careful, their giggles tugging a smile out of him despite himself. The caretakers watched from the doorway, whispering to each other. Everyone in Seoul knew who they were, not hunters, not warriors, but the boyfriends of Mira and Rumi. Celebrities by association, handsome men constantly shadowed by curiosity. But here, there were no flashes of paparazzi cameras. No stage. Just 2 young men who didn't look like they were performing for anyone. When the caretakers stepped forward to thank them, Naruto listened with the same earnest focus he gave to battle. He scribbled a check, 100 million, sliding it into her hand when she tried to refuse. "We can't, this is too much," she whispered. Naruto only shook his head, smile soft. "Keep it. Kids deserve better than too much." She burst into tears and hugged him tight. Sasuke stood by, watching, his braids uneven, his lips curved into the faintest smile. They left not long after, walking out into the city streets. Neither saw the phones angled discreetly from across the way. Neither heard the shutter clicks or saw the shaky uploads making their way onto social feeds. By the time they hailed a cab, the videos were already climbing trends. Many comments were popping up. "OMG, they are so charming. This made my day. Is Namikaze gonna propose?" By the time rehearsal ended, the internet had detonated. Bobby refreshed the feed every few minutes just to keep up, scrolling past trending tags, hashtag boyfriend goals, hashtag orphanage angels, hashtag Rumi hit the jackpot, hashtag Miratusis, hashtag Naruto with kids stop I'm crying. One fan edit looped Naruto carrying 3 kids on his back, slowed down with sparkles and the caption, "This man defeated my trust issues in 0.3 seconds. Another showed Sasuke deadpan with braids in his hair, then cutting to Mira laughing backstage, captioned, "She found the one person scarier than her, and kids broke him." Comments flooded in non-stop. Naruto really wrote a check like it was nothing and hugged the caretaker. "Protect him at all costs." Another said, Sasuke smiling. "That's it, cancel the Saja boys, nothing will ever top this." A third trended, "Huntreks are winning in music, but their boyfriends are winning in life." And one fan in all caps, "Imagine having Naruto look at you the way he looked at those kids, Rumi, you blessed girl." Others kept piling in, "Mira and Rumi, please share your skincare routine and your man-stealing technique." Edits mashed clips together. Naruto with kids would cut to Rumi singing on stage with glowing text, "Power couple energy unlocked." Sasuke smirking with braids cut to Mira in her black stage outfit with, "The Dark Prince and the Queen." Even mainstream outlets joined in. Headlines read, "Huntrex's boyfriends caught off guard at an orphanage, prove kindness needs no stage." When Zoe scrolled through one particularly dramatic fan cam, she burst out laughing. "Oh my god, someone made Naruto holding a toddler look like a movie trailer." They added rain and piano music. Mira groaned, but her lips curved. "At this rate, the fans are gonna start shipping them instead of us." Rumi buried her face in her hands. "Why is he like this? He doesn't even try." Zoe leaned over with a sly grin. "That's why it works, Rumi. He doesn't have to." The penthouse door opened with the rush of chatter and laughter as Huntreks returned from rehearsal. Bags hit the counter, jackets were tossed over chairs until the metallic clank of weights cut through the noise. Mira stopped mid-step. Wait, is that? Zoe peeked around the corner, eyes bugging. Oh my gods. He's bench pressing. He's actually bench pressing. There, in the middle of the living room, Sasuke was crouched casually beside the weight rack, spotting Naruto, who was straining under a loaded barbell. His crutches leaned forgotten against the couch. Sweat beaded on his forehead, his jaw clenched as he tried to push the bar back up. Breathe, Sasuke said coolly, as if this were the most normal thing in the world. I am breathing. Naruto barked back, his arms trembling. The girls froze. Then Rumi screamed a high-pitched squeal so sharp it made everyone wince. Naruto Uzumaki, what the hell are you doing? The bar almost slipped out of his hands. Sasuke caught it and racked it before it crushed him, deadpan as ever. Rumi stomped forward, fury in every step. You're supposed to be healing. Who let you do this? Naruto opened his mouth, finger already aimed at Sasuke. Him. It was Sasuke. Sasuke raised an eyebrow, unfazed. Rumi whirled on him. You're supposed to be the responsible one. For once, Sasuke didn't argue. He just smirked faintly, which made Naruto's case worse. While she was distracted, Naruto tried to quietly crawl off the bench, dragging himself toward his crutches like a guilty puppy sneaking away from a crime scene. He barely got 3 feet before Rumi's eyes snapped back to him. Oh no, you don't. She grabbed him by the collar, hoisted him over her shoulder like he weighed nothing, and marched him back toward the couch. Put me down. Naruto yelled, pounding weakly at her back. I can walk. This is embarrassing. Good, Rumi snapped. Be embarrassed. Maybe you'll think twice next time. Naruto kicked his legs uselessly, face red, looking for all the world like a sulking child. Zoe collapsed onto the floor laughing. Oh my gods, he looks like he's being carried to timeout. Mira covered her smile with her hand but couldn't hide the sparkle in her eyes. He kind of deserves it. Sasuke turned away, trying and failing not to laugh. His shoulders shook, the corner of his mouth twitching upward as Naruto glared at him over Rumi's shoulder. Traitor! Naruto shouted. You're supposed to be on my side. But Sasuke just let out the smallest chuckle, watching his best friend hauled off like a misbehaving kid. Rumi stormed across the living room, Naruto slung over her shoulder like a sack of rice. He flailed. Uselessly, his fists pounding against her back, his voice echoing through the penthouse. This is injustice. Naruto yelled, pointing dramatically at Sasuke from his upside-down perch. You hear me, Sasuke? Injustice. You're just sitting there while she's kidnapping me. Sasuke leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his usual cool facade cracking as the smallest grin tugged at his lips. Say something. Defend me. Naruto demanded, legs kicking in the air. Sasuke's smirk widened. Nope. Betrayal. Treachery. Naruto cried, thrashing like a child dragged off to bed. First you let me lift, now you let me get carried like a baby. What kind of friend are you? Zoe was on the floor in stitches, pounding her palm against the carpet. Oh gods, this is the best day of my life. Mira covered her mouth, trying to hold back her laughter, but the sparkle in her eyes betrayed her. Naruto, you do kind of look like a toddler throwing a tantrum. I am not a toddler. Naruto shouted, his face red as Rumi marched him to the couch. Rumi plopped him down with a thud, hands on her peach. Stay. Put. Naruto crossed his arms, glaring at Sasuke like a betrayed comrade. I hope you're proud of yourself. Sasuke finally let a quiet chuckle slip. Extremely. Naruto groaned, throwing himself back against the couch cushions like the weight of the world had crushed him. Unbelievable. Everyone's against me. Zoe snorted, tears in her eyes from laughing. Not everyone. We're totally on your side, Rumi. Traitors, Naruto muttered, pouting like a sulky kid. Naruto sulked into the couch cushions, arms folded tight across his chest, his bottom lip stuck out in the most dramatic pout imaginable. He muttered something about tyranny and no justice in this world, but no one was listening anymore. Rumi, still glaring at him, reached up and tugged the ties from her braid. Her hair tumbled down in dark, silky waves, spilling over her shoulders as she stretched. "I'm going to take a shower," she announced casually. Naruto froze. His eyes tracked her without shame, pout forgotten, every bit of fire and indignation replaced by pure, wordless awe. His mouth parted, his brain utterly derailed. Zoe, sitting cross-legged on the floor, noticed first and nearly choked on her laughter. "Oh my gods, look at his face." Mira elbowed Sasuke, who smirked knowingly. "Pouting's over, I guess." Rumi caught the way Naruto was staring and arched an eyebrow, a faint blush creeping into her cheeks. "What?" Naruto shook his head quickly, sitting up straighter, suddenly trying to act normal despite the heat in his ears. "And nothing. Just, take your time." Sasuke's chuckle filled the room, low and amused. "Pathetic." Naruto shot him a glare, but it lacked all bite. His eyes inevitably drifted back toward the hallway where Rumi had disappeared, and the grin tugging at his lips betrayed him completely. Naruto leaned back on the couch, arms draped lazily over the cushions. Rumi had disappeared down the hall, and the rest of HUNTR/X plus Sasuke and Mira had gathered in the living room with snacks, half curious about what the boys had been up to all day. Zoe piped up first. "So what was that about the orphanage?" Naruto shrugged, rubbing the back of his neck. "It just felt right, you know. Money doesn't matter. They needed it more than me. Besides," he grinned wide, the mischievous glint in his eye unmistakable, "I've got Rumi. My sugar mommy." Mira groaned, tossing a cushion at him. "That's our money too you're counting on." Naruto caught the pillow and smirked. "Well, I'd offer you the same deal, Mira, but something tells me Sasuke wouldn't be too happy about it." Mira flushed scarlet, her mouth opening in protest. "I'm so telling Rumi you tried to hit on me." Sasuke, lounging against the arm of the couch, smirked like a predator closing in. "Oof. That's not gonna be good for you, Dobe. Not when I show her that picture of you and Yujito." Naruto gasped, sitting up straighter like Sasuke had just accused him of treason. "It wasn't my fault she assaulted me." Zoe blinked, confused, leaning forward like she was about to hear the juiciest scandal. "Wait, assaulted? What did she do?" Naruto leaned in, eyes wide, whispering as if he were about to unveil some heinous secret. "She kissed me. On the cheek." The room went silent for half a beat before Zoe burst into hysterical laughter, Mira smacked her forehead, and Sasuke just shook his head with a chuckle. "You're pathetic," Sasuke muttered, but the smirk tugging at his lips betrayed his amusement. Naruto threw his hands up, completely bewildered. "She kissed me. How are you all acting like it's not a big deal?" His voice cracked with indignation as his face turned red. "My face is Rumi's and only Rumi's," he declared sternly, jabbing a finger at his own cheek like it was sacred ground. Zoe nearly fell off the couch laughing, Mira groaned into her hands, and Sasuke was openly smirking now, clearly entertained by how worked up his teammate had gotten. Naruto sat there, chest puffed out like he'd just delivered a vow to the heavens. Behind them, soft footsteps padded down the hall. Rumi emerged, towel draped over her shoulders, brushing through her damp hair. She caught the tail end of his proclamation, her eyes widening slightly before softening. She paused, leaning against the doorframe for a moment as she watched him bewildered, pouting, but completely serious. Naruto, who could face down demons without blinking, was ranting about how his cheek belonged only to her. Rumi exhaled slowly, her lips curving into the faintest sigh of a smile. She didn't say anything, just finished brushing her hair, her eyes lingering on him with quiet warmth before she turned back toward her room. Naruto never even noticed she'd been there. But Sasuke did, and for once he didn't tease. He only smirked to himself, because he knew Rumi had heard exactly what she needed to. Naruto was still mid-rant, arms crossed as if the fate of the world depended on his cheek. My face is Rumi's and only Rumi's, he repeated, glaring at Sasuke, Mira, and Zoe like they'd all lost their minds. Sasuke smirked but didn't answer. Mira rubbed her temples. Zoe nearly choked on laughter. Then a soft voice slid in from behind them. Oh. My face, huh? Naruto stiffened like someone had just drawn a blade across his throat. He turned slowly. Rumi was back, her hair damp and loose around her shoulders, towel still in her hand. She arched a brow, eyes glittering with mischief. Why yeah, Naruto stammered, straightening his back like he was standing before the Hokage herself. That's what I said. Rumi crossed the room in 3 measured steps. She leaned down, so close he could feel the heat off her skin. Her lips brushed against his cheek once quick, light, claiming. Good, she whispered, her smirk widening. Because that means I can do whatever I want with it. The room erupted. Zoe squealed and flopped onto the couch, clutching a cushion like she was watching a drama unfold live. Mira groaned, dragging her hand down her face. Even Sasuke coughed into his fist, trying and failing not to laugh. Naruto, meanwhile, sat frozen, face redder than a furnace, every nerve in his body short-circuited. Rumi pulled back just enough to look at him, her smile gentler now. Don't look so scared, she teased. You're mine, aren't you? All he could do was nod, still dazed, and the others lost it all over again. They talked and vibed all night, the air thick with anticipation. Rumi helped Naruto to bed, her touch lingering as she tucked him in. But sleep was the last thing on her mind. She watched him settle in, his breathing steadying as he closed his eyes. Rumi stepped into the bathroom, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and nervousness. She took a deep breath, looking at herself in the mirror, and smiled, knowing what she wanted. She had bought a lacy black thong that hugged her curves and a matching BR that left little to the imagination. The purple patterns traced her body, from her long legs to her neck, emphasizing every curve. Mira had helped her pick it out, assuring her that this would send a clear message to Naruto. Rumi's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the BR, her reflection showing a woman ready to take the next step. Naruto lay in bed, his eyes closed, unaware of the storm of longing brewing. He heard the bathroom door click shut and assumed Rumi needed a moment to herself. He let his thoughts drift, wondering about the night ahead and the feelings that had been building between them. His mind was a whirlwind of anticipation and longing. Rumi stepped out of the bathroom, her heart racing. She saw Naruto with his eyes closed, and a soft smile played on her lips. She crawled on top of him, her movements slow and deliberate. Naruto's eyes fluttered open, and as he saw her, his breath caught in his throat. The sight of her in the lacy outfit, her curves accentuated by the purple patterns, was breathtaking. Rumi saw the hunger in his eyes, but she felt no fear. This was exactly what she wanted. His gaze roved over her body, taking in every detail, and she reveled in his attention. Naruto wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her closer, his touch gentle yet firm. They kissed hungrily, their lips meeting in a dance of longing and passion. The night was theirs, and they were ready to explore every inch of it. As they kissed, Rumi's hands explored Naruto's chest, feeling the firm muscles beneath his shirt. She traced the lines of his body, her touch light and teasing, making him shiver with anticipation. Naruto's hands roamed over her back, feeling the soft curves and the delicate lace of her BR. He pulled her closer, his body responding to hers with a primal hunger. They moved together, their bodies pressed against each other, the heat between them building with each touch and kiss. Rumi's breath hitched as Naruto's hands found the clasp of her BR, his fingers deftly undoing it. She shrugged off the straps, letting the BR fall away, exposing her to his hungry gaze. Naruto's eyes darkened with longing as he took in the sight of her, his hands cupping her melons, his thumbs circling her tips, making her gasp with pleasure. Rumi's hands moved lower, her fingers tracing the waistband of Naruto's pants. She felt his hardness, his longing for her evident, and she smiled, her confidence growing. She undid his belt, her movements slow and deliberate, savoring the anticipation in his eyes. Naruto lifted his behind, helping her as she pulled down his lowers, revealing his wild and ready for her. Rumi straddled him, her body poised above his, her eyes locked with his. She could feel his heat, his longing, and it sent a wave of pleasure through her. She lowered herself onto him, taking him inch by inch, their bodies joining in a perfect fit. Naruto groaned, his hands gripping her peach, his fingers digging into her soft FLSH as she began to move. Their rhythm was slow at first, a gentle rocking that built with each move. Rumi's body responded to his, her peach moving in sync with his, their breaths mingling as they kissed. The room was filled with the sounds of their pleasure, their and gasps a symphony of longing. Naruto's hands roamed over her body, exploring every curve, every curve, his touch sending shivers of pleasure through her. Rumi's movements grew more urgent, her body seeking release. She rode him with abandon, her peach grinding against his, their bodies slick with sweat. Naruto met her thirsts, his body responding to hers, his own need building with each touch. He could feel her tightening around him, her body on the edge of release, and he knew he was close too. With a final, desperate move, Rumi cried out, her body convulsing with pleasure as she came, her inner muscles clenching around Naruto. He followed her over the edge, his own release crashing through him, their bodies shuddering together as they GRT out the waves of pleasure. As they came down from their high, Rumi collapsed onto Naruto's chest, her body still trembling with aftershocks. Naruto wrapped his arms around her, holding her close, his heart pounding in his chest. They lay there, entwined, their bodies still connected, their breaths slowly returning to normal. Rumi's fingers traced patterns on Naruto's chest, her touch gentle and soothing. Naruto's hands roamed over her back, his touch loving and possessive. They didn't need words, their bodies spoke for them, a language of love and longing that needed no translation. In the quiet of the night, they whispered promises and dreams, their voices low and filled with emotion. They knew that this night was just the beginning, a stepping stone into a future filled with love, passion, and endless possibilities. As they drifted off to sleep, wrapped in each other's arms, they carried with them the memories of a night that had changed everything. Rumi rose slowly, stretching her arms above her head, the faintest glow still clinging to her skin. Last night replayed in her mind not just for what happened, though that alone had left her heart racing, but because it had been with him. With Naruto. That was what made it wonderful. She slipped into a robe and padded out barefoot, her braid loose and messy for once. The scent of coffee reached her before she reached the kitchen. Mira and Zoe were already at the counter, mugs in hand, scrolling through their phones. Zoe yawned. Morning, Rumi. Myra's eyes flicked up, sharp as ever. She froze mid-sip, her gaze narrowing on her friend. Rumi blinked. What? She asked, clutching her robe tighter. Mira tilted her head, studying her like she'd just uncovered a secret. You're glowing. Zoe looked between them, confused. Glowing? Like skincare glowing or? Mira smirked knowingly, leaning her chin on her hand. Not skincare. That's the kind of glow you don't buy in a bottle. Rumi's face went crimson. Mira, she hissed, trying to grab her mug to hide behind. Zoe gasped, eyes going wide as it clicked. No way. You and Naruto. Rumi turned her back on both of them, muttering into her cup. I'm making more coffee. Mira and Zoe exchanged grins over their mugs, twin devils savoring the moment. Rumi padded into the kitchen, still glowing, her braid hanging loose over one shoulder. She poured herself coffee, humming under her breath. Mira arched a brow over the rim of her own mug. She knew that look. Zoe leaned forward, eyes sparkling with mischief. Alright, spill. Don't try and play it off, you're glowing so hard the neighbors could probably see it. How was it? Rumi froze mid-sip. How was what? Zoe gasped dramatically, clutching her chest. Don't you dare. Was he good? Was he big? Rumi choked on her coffee, slamming the mug down. Her face turned crimson. I am not telling you that. Mira smirked but stayed quiet, enjoying Rumi squirming. Zoe wasn't done. Come on, you can't just walk in here looking like you just stepped out of a romance drama and not give details. Rumi crossed her arms, chin tilting stubbornly. Nope. Not happening. Mira chuckled and changed the subject. Though her eyes softened. Was he put off by your patterns? For the first time, Rumi's blush melted into a genuine smile. She shook her head. No. Not even a little. He looked at me like they made me more appealing, not less. Zoe whistled low. DMN. That man's not letting you go. Rumi's smile widened, quiet but certain. Good. Because I'm not letting him go either. The coffee pot sputtered its last drops as the three girls gathered around the low table, notebooks and lyric sheets scattered everywhere. The diss track was still a work in progress, rhymes crossed out and scribbled over in a dozen different colored pens. Zoe tapped her pencil against the paper. Okay, so far we've got fake smiles, fake charms, but your stage is hollow arms. Needs bite. She scribbled a skull doodle in the margin. Rumi set her mug down, still glowing despite herself. Make it sharper. They lure people in, but it's all empty. They're trying to hollow out the Han moon with their songs, right? Then call it out, say they're draining hearts, not filling them. Mira nodded, her tone measured but approving. That works. Something like, you drain the light, but we burn brighter. It ties into the Han moon, makes it clear we're the ones protecting it. Zoe pointed her pen at Rumi. Wow. Look at Miss Glowing giving out fire lines. Must have been some night. Rumi groaned. Zoe. Mira sighed, though the corner of her mouth betrayed amusement. Focus. We need this track perfect. One wrong line and it looks like petty rivalry instead of a warning. Zoe dramatically zipped her lips, then immediately leaned over Rumi's notebook. But seriously, if he wasn't put off by your patterns, and he's hyping you up like that? Girl, she fanned herself with a lyric sheet. You win at life. Rumi tried to hide her smile behind her braid, muttering, I already knew that. Mira smirked and tapped her pen against the page. Then prove it in this song. Make sure when people hear it, they feel that same certainty. That we're not just fighting them, we're winning. The room settled into a rhythm, the glow of last night flowing into sharp lyrics and fierce resolve. Between Zoe's antics, Myra's steady guidance, and Rumi's newfound confidence, the diss track slowly took shape, a song not just to expose the Saja boys, but to remind the world who really protected their hearts. The clatter of pens and Zoe's endless humming filled the penthouse as HUNTR/X sharpened their diss track into something lethal. Rumi leaned over her notes, Mira tapped a rhythm against the table, and Zoe doodled exaggerated fangs over a sketch of Jinnu. Then the air shifted. A soft whoosh swept through the kitchen as the cabinet opened on its own. A cereal box floated out, followed by a carton of milk, both carried gently by a shimmering wind kitsune. The fox padded gracefully across the counter, set everything down, and poured with precision. The three girls froze mid-thought, their eyes snapping toward the kitchen. Naruto drifted lazily behind the kitsune, still horizontal, arms folded behind his head like he was lounging in the air itself. His hood had fallen back, messy blonde hair spilling everywhere, and he yawned as if this was the most normal thing in the world. Morning, he said casually, reaching out as the kitsune slid a bowl of cereal into his hand. He floated past the table without even glancing up, the tails of the wind construct flicking playfully behind him. Zoe's jaw dropped. He's air surfing for breakfast. Mira pinched the bridge of her nose. Of course he is. Rumi, still glowing from the night before, buried her face in her hands. I swear, sometimes I don't know if I should strangle him or kiss him. Naruto, hearing none of it, happily shoveled a spoonful into his mouth and grinned. What? Can't let a guy enjoy the little things? The girls just stared, equal parts exasperated and amused, as the wind fox sat at his side like an obedient pet. Naruto drifted down from the air like he weighed nothing, the faint shimmer of his wind kitsune dissolving behind him. He carried his cereal bowl in one hand, spoon lazily hanging from his mouth as he floated over to the couch. Without hesitation, he settled right beside Rumi, letting his weight sink into the cushions. She blinked in surprise as he casually draped his arm over her shoulders. Rumi softened instantly, curling against him, her warmth seeping into his side. Naruto let out a quiet hum of satisfaction, cheek brushing her braid as if the spot had always been his. The others just stared. Zoe mouthed, "Are you kidding me right now?" Mira shook her head, though the faintest smile tugged at her lips. Naruto didn't seem to notice or care. He simply soaked in Rumi's presence, leaning into her like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Perfect spot," he murmured, his grin lopsided. "Don't think I'm moving anytime soon." Rumi rolled her eyes, but she didn't move away either. If anything, she tucked in closer. Naruto reached across the coffee table, balancing his cereal bowl in one hand while he snagged Zoe's notebook with the other. He squinted at the messy scribbles, lines of half-written lyrics, crossed-out insults, and doodles of angry chibi demons with excess for eyes. "This is for the Saja boys, right?" he asked, his tone casual but his grin sharp as he flipped through a page where Zoe had underlined, "Demon Trash Can," 3 times. Zoe gasped and dove for the notebook. "Hey! That's classified material." Mira groaned, pinching the bridge of her nose. "Naruto, don't encourage her. She's been up since sunrise writing demon disas." Naruto chuckled, handing the notebook back just out of Zoe's reach for one extra second. "Looks solid. I can already see them crying on stage." Rumi smirked against his shoulder, still curled against him. "You're way too comfortable in the middle of our planning session." "Hey," Naruto said, finally giving the notebook back to Zoe, "if it's about taking those idiots down, I'm already in. Just tell me when." Naruto lounged on the couch with one arm around Rumi, the other hand lazily flipping through a small notebook. The early light made the penthouse feel soft and safe, the girls clustered around the table in pajamas, coffee and notebooks scattered like battle plans. Zoe was animated, Mira was scheming, and Rumi still glowed faintly from last night. Naruto folded the paper in his hand and tossed it onto the table like it was nothing. "Oh, this?" He nudged the note with a finger toward Rumi. "From Jinnu. Guess you met him already." Zoe choked on her coffee. "Wait, what?" "She did what?" Rumi's braid whipped over her shoulder. "I didn't meet him," she snapped, heat rising in her cheeks. Naruto just shrugged, perfectly calm, like a man who'd seen too many ridiculous things to be shocked by another. "If you did, I'm fine with it," he said, casual as pouring cereal. "You tell me if it mattered." Mira made a strangled sound somewhere between a laugh and disbelief. "Naruto, you can't actually mean that." Naruto winked at Rumi. "I mean it. I trust you." Rumi opened her mouth to retort, half angry, half melted, and then the note slid out of Naruto's hand. He picked it back up, smoothed the slightly crumpled paper, and held it out like proof. "It says, 'Can't wait to see you. Jinnu.' Cute, right?" Zoe leapt from her chair and grabbed the paper, reading aloud in an exaggerated sing-song, "Can't wait to see you. Jinnu. Wow. So romantic." She squealed and then pretended to faint dramatically. Rumi snatched the note back, cheeks hot. "He said that to a fan, not to me." Naruto's grin didn't budge. He reached toward the bowl of cereal as if nothing at all was an issue, and the little wind kitsune the small whirl of wind-shaped fur and tails that had been hovering by his shoulder since morning bobbed down. Naruto pinched off a tiny spoonful, held it between two fingers, and, with the same absent-minded tenderness he showed Rumi, offered it to the kitsune. The kitsune sniffed. Naruto laughed softly. "Careful, little guy, we don't feed you sugar at breakfast." He fed the bite into the kitsune's open muzzle. For a beat nothing happened. Then, as if the world finally decided to play the joke it had been leaning toward since dawn, the spoonful of cereal passed straight through the kitsune's translucent form and clattered onto the floor. Everyone froze. The kitsune gave a small disgruntled sneeze or maybe a gust of wind that sounded suspiciously like a sneeze and floated away, completely unbothered. Zoe's jaw dropped, realistic as ever. It just went through him. Naruto blinked, then shrugged. He's made of wind. Food isn't really his thing. He reached down, scooped the trembling bit of cereal off the floor, and popped it into his mouth as if this was normal breakfast behavior. "Tastes fine." Mira rolled her eyes but couldn't stop the little smile tugging at her mouth. "Only you would be so calm about a man your girlfriend might have talked to and a pet that food passes through." Rumi, still flushed, watched Naruto, the ease with which he trusted her, the ridiculous, gentle way he treated everything that mattered to him. She could argue, demand, scold, but the look he gave her when he said, "I trust you," melted any sharpness away. She hooked a finger under his chin and pulled him closer so he couldn't be casual anymore. "You're impossible," she muttered, soft for only him. Naruto bumped her with his shoulder, grin wide and warm. "Maybe. But you love me anyway." Zoe and Mira exchanged a look and burst out laughing, the sound bright and conspiratorial. The penthouse hummed with that familiar, comfortable noise of people who'd chosen each other, teasing, trust, and the kind of small ridiculousness that grew into something bigger than any headline. Outside, unseen cameras and phones had already picked up the earlier graveyard visit and the orphanage check. Elsewhere, the internet was spinning. Inside, they had cereal, a wind kitsune that could not be bothered by solid food, and a note that was, for the moment, nothing more than a piece of paper. Sasuke shuffled out of the hallway an hour later, his hair a total mess, sticking in every direction like he'd been through a storm. He didn't even look at anyone, just headed straight for the counter, grabbed the pot, and poured a mug so full it nearly spilled over. He chugged half of it in one go, letting out a sigh that rattled in his chest. Naruto, lounging on the couch with Rumi tucked under his arm, grinned like a fox. "Tired night?" Sasuke didn't miss a beat. "Shut it." He dragged a hand through his hair, which somehow only made it worse. Mira, perched at the table with her own cup, raised a brow. "Oh no, let him talk. I want to hear what he thinks he knows." That earned the smallest curve of a smirk from Sasuke. He sat beside her, setting his mug down with a deliberate slowness, like he was stalling. "You were the one who wouldn't let me sleep." Zoe, who was dunking an oversized muffin into her coffee, immediately choked and burst out laughing. "Oh my gods, did he just say that out loud?" Naruto's grin widened, teeth flashing. "So Mira put you through the ringer, huh?" Mira shot him a glare sharp enough to cut glass. "Careful, Blondie. I can put you through the ringer too." Rumi, already pink in the face from Zoe's giggling, buried her face against Naruto's shoulder with a groan. "Can we not do this at breakfast?" Sasuke raised his mug in mock salute. Finally, someone with sense. Zoe leaned across the table, eyes sparkling. "Nah, let's keep going. I haven't had this much fun since the leather slides." Naruto covered his face with his free hand, laughing under his breath. "Worth it," he muttered, half to himself, half to Rumi. And for a moment, the kitchen felt like its own little world, banter bouncing between them, coffee steaming in the air, and even exhaustion couldn't stop the warmth of being here together. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 12. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Slygold on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.